So I have to share a little milestone with you. I hit 100 subscribers today, and I'm super pumped about that. So I figured, what if they know a little bit more about me? So this is the story of me going vegan. Also, thank you all for being here. I can't believe I got to 100 subscribers in less than a month. That is crazy, and I'm so grateful. Thank you. I had the idea for the thumbnail and then realized that pretty much in everyone else's vegan transformations that you'll see online, the thumbnail is before and after, and it was a drastic weight loss. And that did happen for me, but I wanted to be genuine and authentic, and the genuine and authentic truth is my entire life, whether I was vegan or not, my weight fluctuated a good 15 to 20 pounds in any given year. Let me also say, in my pre-vegan picture, I was very malnourished. I was doing keto at the time. I wasn't healthy then. I'm not that way now. I look good and I feel good now. So anyways, that's that. Okay, thanks. Let me just preface this video and say that at one time in my life, I was the type of person that said I would never go vegan. I knew that I wanted to eventually be vegan long before I started the transition process. So I guess in a way that kind of was the first step. And it's kind of funny, at the time I was dating somebody, lovely guy, don't be rude about him in the comments, we're still friends. I told him that I wanted to be vegan, and he was like, yeah, I would never date a vegan. And I mean, we're not dating now, but you know, it's just kind of funny. That was probably about 8 months or so before I went vegan, actually, because I said that on my birthday, I remember. And I'm pretty sure I actually got a vegan meal that night because we went to Mellow Mushroom. And I want to say that might have been my first time trying it. So yeah, first step, I made the decision. And with that, I started to prepare. I wanted to take this thing in baby steps because I was a personal fitness trainer at the time, so I knew that baby steps were the answer, and I knew that baby steps were the way that you reach a goal. You don't, bite off more than you can chew and then self-sabotage and, screw everything up. Just kidding. But really, I knew that baby steps were the way to go. So the baby steps that I chose to do first were not diet related. I knew that I wanted to make veganism my lifestyle, and I knew that I wanted to do it for the animals. So I started with the easiest things I could control, and that was clothes, cleaning supplies, beauty products, household items, everything besides diet. So we'll start with beauty products. I researched, what are some good brands? What are some accessible brands? Because at the time I was living in Florence, Alabama. Essentially, I researched what I could buy at Ulta that was vegan. That was where I was getting all my beauty products at the time. So for everything besides that, I just bought it online because I could Google if it was vegan and I could verify that it was vegan, and I could look more into the companies and things like that. I completely avoided window shopping, and I didn't go to TJ Maxx and Target because I didn't want to be tempted to buy things that I didn't know where they came from. So that kind of kicked that habit for me. I had a little bit of a habit of shopping at TJ Maxx a lot at the time, and that helped. So side note, if that's a problem you have, think about it. Now I kind of know what to look for, when I'm going in the store. I don't have an exhaustive list of all of the animal products that exist under weird names. There's something about beetles, some kind of red beetle, I don't remember what it's called, but there are all kinds of things with sneaky names that are not vegan. I could look them up, I could get an exhaustive list going in my head, but I honestly don't want to, so I just adopted the habit of not buying these things in stores, and I carry that with me 5 years later. So every now and then I'll see Pacifica or a Cure in TJ Maxx, and I'll buy it then, especially if it's on clearance, but if it's not something that I recognize, I just don't buy it. So let me also just say that non-diet related vegan items, learning about all that stuff is an ongoing process. I'm never gonna know everything that there is to know, and I'm still gonna get in the aisle looking at lotions and be like, oh God, I don't know what to buy. I don't wanna spend $14 on a certified vegan lotion, but let me Google and see if this $6 lotion is vegan or cruelty-free. Well, both. Let me Google and see if this is okay. It is worthy of noting that sometimes these things aren't labeled because the vegan and the cruelty-free label is a bit expensive to acquire. So after that, I decided to stop buying non-vegan items at the grocery store. This wasn't changing overnight. This wasn't completely changing my diet. It was just that I was more intentional about what I bought to keep in the house. Let me just say that at this time, I spent a lot of money going out to eat. I had a lot more money to spend back then, and things were a lot cheaper back then, so I did that. This step in just not buying non-vegan items at the grocery store wasn't a huge step, but it was a big step. I slowly transitioned with easy things like non-dairy coffee creamer and milk, which I didn't ever really buy milk anyways, but cheese, like the dairy items, I just switched to the non-dairy items. And then at that time, actually, if I wanted like a meat product, I would buy a meat substitute instead. Granted, there were not many vegan substitutes on the market back then. I think it was pretty much only Gardein, I don't know how you say it. It was pretty much only that. So that was mostly what I bought if I wanted something, and then I would try that every now and then. I was still bringing some animal product foods into the house at the time because I would have like leftovers from like family dinners, or if I went and got a pizza and had leftovers, or if I brought some leftovers home from work and things like that, I would still, you know, have some stuff in the house. I just wouldn't buy it at grocery stores. That part of the transition was probably the longest. It lasted about 6 to 8 months. And sporadically, I will say, like for certain recipes, I would buy like cheese dip or something. I refused to buy meat. I don't think I ever bought meat when I lived in that apartment, ever. And I wasn't vegan for the first several months of living there. So for those 6 to 8 months, when I was in that period where I was only buying like vegan items at the grocery store, I just built up my knowledge in learning how to cook. One of my go-to meals was a chicken enchilada casserole, and it was literally just corn, black beans, enchilada sauce, chicken, and tortillas. And that's not as easy to get enough protein on that whenever you omit the chicken. So essentially, I just had to relearn things like that and relearn how to make those things work. Now I could do it much easier, but back then it took a lot more, you know, effort on my part. But anyways, all that to say, like I really spent the time and I really spent the effort just learning more about plant-based protein and how I can keep my protein what it was. But if I wanted to go out and if I didn't feel like cooking or whatever, as I said in another video, I had so few options in the town where I went vegan. If I would have just went vegan overnight without like doing research, it would have been kind of bad. I had quite the poppin' social life back then. I would go out with friends a lot. I would go out and drink at the bars, and we would be out till 2, 3 a.m. Like I did a lot with friends and stuff back then. And here is my opinion. And I know that not every vegan is going to agree with me on this. Not every vegan agreed with me at the time that I was doing it, because I met a girl and she was like, transition, what do you mean? Like kind of rude about it. But different things work for everybody. If you see this and you're like, ugh, that's stupid, don't take my advice. It's not for you, obviously. This is just what I think. If there are any vegans or any people that are wanting to go vegan that see this, my opinion is that mentally, it can be beneficial to give yourself the option of still, you know, going out with your friends at 3 a.m. and getting a hot dog after you leave the bar. If you let yourself have that option before you're fully vegan, it's going to make the transition easier, I think. This option is beneficial both mentally and physically, because one thing that I forgot to mention in my things that I wish I knew before I went vegan video, going vegan and being vegan can be very isolating if you're the only one that you know, because no one will get it. Like seriously, most people don't get it. And that's okay. They don't have to. Veganism isn't for them, it's for me and it's for the animals. So if somebody doesn't get it, that's okay. But that being said, it can be very isolating and it can be lonely. So whenever you are making the transition to go vegan, it is important to remember that your friends still matter, and it's still important to have a social life, and it's still important to have that aspect of your life and do your best to not isolate yourself further unless you just want to. Unless you want to isolate yourself because you don't want to be associated with that, that's okay too. Mental well-being is my thing. And I think that if you slowly transition and you give yourself the option to still go out for pizza or still go out for a 3 a.m. hot dog with your friends while you're transitioning, it'll help in the long run. And if you're really struggling to get your protein in every day, having the option to go out and get a pizza, chicken tenders or whatever, having that option is definitely gonna help. It can give you protein that you know. It can eliminate the, oh my God, what do I do? You're already hungry, you already might be a little bit malnourished. Like, it's okay. It's not gonna, you know, if you have to do this for a few months, it's okay. I could go on forever, but that's essentially what I wanted to get across with that point, is that if you allow yourself wiggle room, I genuinely think that long term it's beneficial. But that being said, month by month, I was cutting things out. I can't remember the order that I went in and what I cut out first, but let's just, for example, say fish first. I ate a lot of shrimp, I ate a lot of salmon, and I just cut those out 1 month. That whole month when I would go out, I wouldn't get a fish item, and then I decided then that I was just done with it forever. And then let's say the next month was pork. I didn't want to eat pigs anymore, so I wasn't eating fish, and then the next month I also, in addition to not eating fish, I also cut out pork. So the only meats I was eating then was, let's say, beef and chicken. And then the next month I cut out the beef, so chicken was last, if that makes sense. So I took it in steps. I didn't just cut everything out all at once. And 2, I suggest saving your favorite for last, or saving the most accessible for last. For me, that was chicken, and I actually didn't cut it out. Like, I never had a period where I was just vegetarian. Actually, at the end of the video, I'll tell you like the moment that made me go vegan. I cannot stress enough how important it is to intentionally learn about protein. For the love of all things holy, please do not get your information from Facebook. I am in a couple of vegan and plant-based groups on Facebook, and people will ask questions. The answers that people give are terrifying. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Please don't get your resources from Facebook. Please get them from trusted sources. Like, if I know that I joke around a lot on this channel, but I'm so being serious right now. Please don't trust Facebook for stuff like that. For example, I saw one person said, where do you get your protein? I know soy is bad for you, so I avoid that. Soy is not bad for you. Let me just say that. I eat soy every single day. It's not bad for you. I'm very healthy. I've been vegan 5 years. I lift weights. I'm active. It's not bad for you. Anyways, as I was saying, give yourself time to learn about plant-based proteins, where to get them, how to add in a variety into your diet, etc. Something that I really emphasized, and part of the reason I didn't go vegan overnight, was that I wanted to give myself time to learn and time to be able to make quick decisions and time to be able to do things on the fly without freaking out, if that makes sense. Like, oh God, I don't know what to make for dinner. I guess I'll just go get chicken nuggets. Like, I wanted to give myself time to where I wouldn't have to resort for that. And then when I finally made the decision to go vegan, I wouldn't have to face that, I hope that makes sense. What I want to get at here is life can be hard enough without us placing so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect. So give yourself time to learn so that when you decide to make that decision, you have the knowledge base to back it up and you're not gonna put yourself in between a rock and a hard place, essentially. So finally, at the end of my vegan transition, I was really only eating out like maybe a couple times a month. I was eating at home all the time. I ate burrito bowls and I ate Buddha bowls and things like that all the time. Now, Pinterest is an okay source for stuff like this. Maybe not knowledge, but recipes, yes. So I was just looking up things like that, and I was really focusing on variety and how I could, like, I made lentil meatballs and lentil meatloaf and things like that. So I used plant-based sources to make meat-centered items, and I made so many chilies and soups and things like that. You can easily make all of those things very, very high protein. I focused on building my knowledge base of things like that, and then went from there. I was, you know, it was smooth sailing after that. So now, what you might have all been waiting for, I don't know, the pivotal moment that I decided to go vegan. This entire video to say, I knew that I was going to go vegan, but I didn't have a set date in mind. I just knew it was kind of one of those, like, I know I'll be ready when I'm ready things, and this is the point that I was ready. And I was actually at a Mexican restaurant with my mom, and I was sitting there having chicken and rice. Again, I never went vegetarian. I was having chicken and rice, and I was most of the way through the meal, and I just kind of sat back for a second. There was like kind of a silence and conversation, and the thought slipped into my mind, I wonder what color this chicken was. I like put my fork down, and then I realized like what I asked myself, or like what I thought, and I pictured that the chicken was red, like a hen that I grew up with named Pamela Anderson, because she had really big breasts, which is kind of funny. But I thought of her, and I thought of Pamela Anderson when I went vegan. When I connected the dots and really looked at it like that, as in this thing on my plate was once a living, breathing being that probably had babies at some point and was, well, I was picturing her looking like that. So I pictured that she had been running around in a field and was happy at some point in her life. And it all just kind of like felt like it was crashing down on me. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I put my fork down and I never touched an animal product again. Intentionally. Slip-ups still happen. Like literally today, after I've been vegan for 5 years, I bought popsicles from Outshine. And in my head, all of the Outshine popsicles were vegan because all the ones I've bought so far were vegan. But I never bought the creamy coconut kind, and I was curious because I was like, I wonder what a coconut popsicle tastes like. And so I put some in my pickup order, and then I took the wrapper off and I looked at it, and it was like completely white. And I was like, I hope this doesn't actually have milk in it. And then it does. I've been vegan 5 years. It just wasn't something I thought to look at, and slip-ups still happen. It's just part of being human. We're not perfect, and I think it's really unfair that we often place the pressure on ourselves to be perfect. So I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. It sucks. I'm kind of bummed that I got a box of 12 popsicles that I can't eat and I don't really want to eat. So there's that. Also, little side notes about like my vegan story, because I mean, if there is a place to share them, it's here in this video. During my transition to veganism, I was kind of looking at like slaughterhouse footage type stuff. I was on Twitter a lot back then when Twitter was Twitter, and this stuff was popping up in my feed, and I would watch it and I would get really sad about it. So that stuff had its place. I know I said in my things I wish I knew before I went vegan video that you don't have to watch this stuff, and you don't, but it did have a place in my story, so I think that is important to add. You can consume it in small amounts like I did and it still be effective, because it was very effective, but it was also almost effective to a fault, because after I went vegan, I forgot to mention this part. After I went vegan, I also just was completely sober. So I stopped drinking, and I was smoking a little bit at the time, not cigarettes, if you catch my drift. I was smoking a little bit at the time, and I completely stopped all of it. Whenever I stopped consuming these substances that numbed my emotions, I felt them, and I felt a lot of stuff that I had been repressing for quite a while, and I felt the weight of all of the years I ate animal products, and I felt a lot of guilt, and I was pretty depressed for a while. It wasn't food related. I tracked all of my meals to make sure I was getting adequate nutrition. I used a chronometer. I was watching Simnett Nutrition back then, and his resources and his recipes and things like that were incredibly helpful. He's the biggest thing that I recommend to new vegans or people transitioning. He does some of the best content on YouTube, I think. Again, that was like 5 years ago, and my story since then is that I've still been vegan every single day. I've never eaten meat since then. I've never wanted to. My mindset changed so much about the way that I view food that I don't see animal products as food anymore. For me, it's really not hard to not consume animal products because they're just not appealing. One thing that really triggered my decision also when it did is around the time that the Pamela Anderson thing happened, I saw this thing on Pinterest, and I'll put it on the screen because I distinctly remember it. It said something along the lines of going dairy free is feminism or something like that. I really struggled with that one. I was still consuming dairy at the time, and I really struggled with it because I was like, that's weird. They're animals, and I think it's really messed up to equate animals and people. It was where my mind was at the time. And then I thought about it and I researched the process of the dairy industry. For example, I learned that mother cows mourn their babies, like mother dairy cows mourn their babies when their babies get taken for veal. They go through a mourning process. And I just thought about the fact that I, as a woman, I don't have kids, but I thought about what it would feel like to have my baby taken from me, like to go be killed. And I was like, that's one of the most horrifying things that I can think of. So I really just sat with that and it started to make sense. And that was also a really big influence in why I went vegan at that moment that I did. I'm in my office and just realized that I never told you where I'm going now with my vegan journey. So I'm never not going to be vegan. Let me just say that right now. Going vegan was probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I want to learn more about sustainability. I know that going vegan is one of the best things you can do for the planet, but I just want to try to do a little bit more. And I want to get really, really strong, and I want to just see, I want to start like adventuring in with calisthenics and things like that. I just want to see what my body can do. I really think that this channel is going to do really good things for me, and I really think that this venture financially will support me, and I think it will free up a lot of time. Right now I work 2 jobs and I bartend in both of them, and it takes a lot of time. The time that I'm not there, I'm either hanging out with my parents, hanging out with my friends, or making YouTube videos. Sometimes I play video games. All that to say, when a lot of my bartending time is freed up, I would like to experiment more with my body and just see what I can do, how strong I can get, what kind of things that I can, you know, get into, and just ways that I can grow in ways beyond food, essentially. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Just so blown away by how lovely this thing is all going, and I'm so grateful, and thank you. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.